You are not experiencing reality, you are experiencing your version of it. A model built from your history, your wounds, your culture, your language, your fears. It feels like the world. It is not the world. It is the map you drew of the world. And at some point, you forgot you were holding a map. The philosopher Alfred Korzybski said it first. In 1931, the map is not the territory. The word is not the thing. The description is not the described. We do not experience reality directly. We experience our representation of it. And representations are always incomplete, always distorted, always shaped by the mapmaker. This idea became the foundation of an entire field. General semantics, and later neuro-linguistic programming, cognitive therapy. And systems thinking. The insight is deceptively simple. The model you carry inside your head is not the world, but you treat it as if it is. And that gap between model and reality is where most human suffering lives. Mental models are the lenses through which you filter incoming experience. They determine what you notice and what you ignore, what you interpret as threat and what you interpret as opportunity, what you believe is possible and what you have already decided is not. You do not see the world and then form a model. You form a model and then see a world that confirms it. George Kelly, the psychologist who developed personal construct theory, called these constructs the templates through which we anticipate events. He said, "We are not passive receivers of experience. We are active hypothesis testers. The hypothesis is the construct. The construct is the map, and we spend our lives gathering evidence that the map is correct." Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The map you are using right now, the one that feels like common sense, like obvious reality, like just the way things are, was built mostly before you were 12 years old. From experiences you did not choose, interpreted by a brain that was not yet fully formed, filtered through relationships you had no power over. You have been navigating your adult life with a child's map. The most powerful maps are the ones you cannot see, the explicit beliefs you can examine. But the deep structural maps, the ones about whether the world is safe, whether people can be trusted, whether you are fundamentally worthy of love and belonging, these do not feel like beliefs, they feel like facts, furniture, the floor you stand on. Schema Therapy, developed by Jeffrey Young, calls these early maladaptive schemas deep, pervasive patterns about the self and the world formed in early childhood that organize experience for the rest of a life. Abandonment schema, everyone leaves. So get attached to no one. Defectiveness schema, I am fundamentally flawed. So never let anyone see the real me. Subjugation schema, my needs don't matter, so I will disappear before I impose. The schema is not a thought. It is a gravitational field. It bends every new experience toward itself. Selecting confirming evidence, dismissing disconfirming evidence. Generating emotional reactions that feel proportionate, but are actually being amplified by decades of accumulated meaning. One person cancels plans. So one schema fine, things come up. To another, of course they did. Everyone always leaves. This is why changing your mind is so difficult. Not because you lack intelligence or willpower, but because the map is not just a collection of beliefs. It is a structure. It holds everything else in place. To update one section of the map is manageable. To discover that the entire foundational structure is wrong, that is not a belief update. That is an identity earthquake. Gregory Bateson called these levels of change first-order change, adjusting behavior within the existing map, second-order change, revising the map itself. First-order change is relatively easy. You stop a habit, you add a new one. Second-order change is destabilizing, disorienting, and necessary if the map is fundamentally wrong. Most therapy, most self-help, most personal development operates at first order. The map remains intact, only the behavior changes. You can recognize a map-level belief by what happens when it is challenged. A surface belief, when confronted with counter-evidence, produces curiosity or reconsideration. A map-level belief, when challenged, produces something that feels existential. A threat not just to what you think, but to who you are. That disproportionate reaction is the signature. It is the map defending itself. The philosopher Thomas Kuhn described the same process in science. He called it a paradigm shift, the moment when the dominant model can no longer accommodate the anomalies piling up against it, and the whole framework collapses and is replaced. Individuals go through the same process. The anomalies, the experiences that do not fit the map, accumulate quietly for years until the map can no longer hold them. What does map revision actually look like? It begins with what the philosopher Hanske or Gadamer called the fusion of horizons. The moment when your perspective and a radically different one meet, and neither remains. Unchanged, travel does this, sometimes grief does it. Reliably, therapy at its best does it deliberately, deep relationship does it inevitably. The new horizon does not replace the old one. It expands the map. There is a practice that directly addresses the map. It comes from Zen and from Stoicism both, the deliberate cultivation of not knowing, Shunryu. Suzuki said, in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind there are few. The expert's map is complete, finished. The beginner's map has edges still being drawn. The expert sees what they know, the beginner sees what is there. In cognitive therapy, the practice is called cognitive restructuring, identifying the automatic thought, tracing it to the underlying assumption, and testing that assumption against reality rather than against the map. Not, is this thought comfortable? But is this thought accurate? The map is not reality. Reality is the test. And reality, when approached with genuine curiosity, almost always turns out to be more spacious than the map allowed. The deepest map revision requires something more than technique. It requires what the existentialists called confronting thrownness, the recognition that you were thrown into a particular world, a particular body, a particular family, a particular history, without choosing any of it. And that the map you built from that thrown situation, though real in its effects, is not the only possible map. Was never the only possible map. This recognition, genuinely felt, not just intellectually understood, is one of the most liberating and most terrifying things a person can experience. Liberating because it means the map can change. Terrifying because it means the ground you have been standing on was never as solid as you thought. Both of these things are true at once. And sitting with both of them, without collapsing into either, that is the work. You are the map maker, not the map. The map was built by experience, by what happened to you, how it was interpreted, what conclusions were drawn. But you are not the conclusions. You are the one drawing. And the pen is still in your hand. The territory is still there, waiting to be explored more honestly, more curiously, more completely than the first map allowed. This is episode 5 of the Human Mirror series. Next, the ego and its enemies, who you think you are, how that identity defends itself, and what happens to the self when the defenses finally fail. Subscribe and leave a comment. Where in your life are you navigating with an outdated map? I will see you in the depths.